This is my favorite read so far. This book took me through a range of emotions, and that is my favorite thing. When I am laughing, I'm crying, I'm being sympathetic, I'm angry, like things that evoke strong emotions out of me. You have done your job as an author, and I love you. It's amazing. It's great. This book for me, do I want to give it 5 stars? I want to give it 5 stars. I wasn't crazy about the ending, so I will give this book 4.5 stars. Okay, let's just get that out of the way. This book came at such a good time for me. I had read some books that I wasn't loving, and you know that point where like you read a couple of like 3-star books and you're just like, okay, I can't read another 3-star book. Like I need something good. I need something to sink my teeth into that can't put it down, stay up late. I'm exhausted the next morning, but it's totally worth it. That was this book for me. This is called The Sign for Home by Blair Fell. Shout out to our New York authors. We love them, especially authors that write about like Westchester, Hudson Valley, etc. As you know or don't know, I am from Brooklyn, but I live in Westchester County, and Westchester is so to everyone else, Westchester is upstate. Now, a lot of this book takes place in Poughkeepsie, and Poughkeepsie is like even more like, people don't even know what Poughkeepsie is. You know if you live in Westchester, but if you're in New York City, you probably don't know where Poughkeepsie is or what it is. You know what? This book inspired me. This book moved me to activism. I'm not kidding you. Like, this book moved me to research. This book centers around our main character, Arlo Dilly. He is a blind and deaf man, and his interpreter, Cyril. So Arlo is about to take a college course about writing. He is also a Jehovah's Witness. This is, you know, from his family upbringing. His mother passed away when he was young, and so his uncle is his main caretaker. He lives with his uncle. His uncle is pretty prevalent in the Jehovah's Witness church, and so he is wanting Arlo to do the same. He's raising him in the same manner, etc., etc. Arlo struggles with this concept, which is religion versus faith and belief. This is a theme that I identify with, and something that I find myself struggling with at times, because the idea of religion is so organized, and there's all these rules and there's all these things that you have to do, etc., etc. But faith is very individualistic. It's what you believe, it's what you choose to give your energy to, and that's not always in alignment with the concept of religion. And so Arlo is exploring that, and I really like the way the author details that. It definitely shows how crippling religion without belief and faith can be to an individual, especially an individual who relies on other people to be able to exist. It really explains the struggles of blind and deaf individuals, and how dependent they are on other people, human decency, empathy, to be able to exist in this world, and how much we exclude them from simple things like conversations. This book also touches on tactile ASL, which I had never heard of. So you are signing in their hands, as well as like mimicking and explaining the surroundings of the environment that they're in. So that was something new that I learned about, and I found it really exciting and really compelling. Even in conversation where, you know, we have all of our senses, communication, speak, hearing, etc., so much is lost. And so I can't even imagine what that is like for someone who cannot see, or someone who cannot hear, or to have both of those things, not be able to see nor hear. I can't even imagine what that is like. And I love the way that is expressed in this story. As we are kind of going through this book, we get the impression that Arlo has like a dedicated interpreter. Her name is Molly, and Molly has been with him for like forever, like for 10 years. But even she, who I'm sure cares about Arlo, even she doesn't put his need first. Even she leaves him out of communications. She's secretive. She answers on his behalf. It's like she takes away his own basic human rights. Do you know what I mean? And so the introduction of Cyril is so nice, and Arlo loves it because Cyril's not just coming in and doing a job. He is making sure that his client, that Arlo, understands the world around him, understands his surroundings, understands what's going on. He's giving the tone of the people that are conversating. He's letting him know the emotions that they have, their facial expressions. These are all things that we use in regular communication, but people who can't see or who can't hear are not privy to this. And it seems as though previous interpreters, even interpreters who care or are supposed to care about him, they don't do that for Arlo. So Cyril is such a breath of fresh air. Now, Arlo goes through some shit, y'all. Like, after his mother dies, he goes to like this home, kind of. Is home the right word for this? He goes to like this center for, you know, blind and deaf individuals. And anytime there's some kind of government funded situation that are supposed to care for the people, like, we know it's gonna go to shit, right? So obviously traumatic things happen to Arlo there, and the rest of his life he's left to kind of pick up the pieces with no help from the people around him, no help from the people who are supposed to love him. It's really not until Cyril comes into his life that he finds an advocate. He finds somebody who actually cares about him and his well-being, someone who wants to make sure that he is heard, that he understands, that someone who shows him that he matters, someone who teaches him kind of inadvertently about life. And those are all things that Arlo didn't have before. And it's really nice to see the character development, not just in Arlo, but in the interpreter Cyril, because this wasn't even something that Cyril really wanted to do. He took the gig because it wound up paying him more than he was making before. But I found myself relating to Cyril in the fact of, like, when you see injustices, you don't just stand by. Like, you can't just stand by. Like, you are called, you are moved to actions. Like, it is your duty. Like, you are empathetic and you need to help and you need to step in when you see wrong things happening. And so I love that character development for Cyril and how that progresses, because it's not always easy for him. He questions himself along the way, and that's realistic to me. You might do that. Like, you want to come in, you want to do your best, but maybe not to the detriment or harm of yourself. I totally understand that. And I feel like Cyril's character was real. It wasn't like this polished, like, yeah, I'm coming in to do good. Like, no, it's real. We struggle, we fall, we fall, we get back up. Sometimes we feel more strongly moved to do things than other days. Like, that is real freaking life. And I love that that was accurately depicted in this story. I think the main crux of this story is Arlo finding himself. Oftentimes when we grow up with other people kind of instilling belief systems into us instead of coming to them on our own accord, it can be really difficult to know who you are as an individual. And so as we go through this, we definitely see what religion has done to Arlo and the way that he thinks and the way that he processes things and the way that he tries to live his life. But throughout this story and throughout his journey, we see him finding himself outside of that. And he just kind of blossoms into his own person. And it's a really beautiful journey to see. There's a quote in here where he says, "He's your God now, not mine. My God is bigger and better than your God. My God believes in me and knows I can succeed." And I found that part so powerful because as someone who, I kind of grew up pretty liberal in terms of religion. Like, my mom was really just on, like, you need to believe in God, the rest is on you. I did go to church. I went to different churches. I've been to Pentecostal church. I've been to Baptist church. I've been to Catholic church. Like, I've been to a lot of churches, all within the umbrella of Christianity. And some of the harshest treatment I've received has been in church, like in my whole life. There can be so much judgment. There can be so much making you feel bad about the person that you are. It was a long time until I found and developed my own relationships, my own belief systems that worked for me and made me feel good about it. And I love that Arlo is able to do that for himself in this book, because some of us never get there. It is rough. Like, it can be really rough. We've heard stories, we've seen the religious cults, like we've seen a lot. We know how difficult that can be. And so I love that Arlo is able to get to that point. The fact that he's able to get to this point where he's comfortable with himself and his belief and his life and what he wants to do is really a beautiful journey to read. This book, it did so much, and it painted such a vivid picture in my mind. Like, I don't know about everyone else, but when I read, like, it's like I am creating the picture. Like, I'm almost like creating the movie in my mind. And it was so easy to do that with this story. Sometimes I'm reading stories and like the language is not descriptive enough, or I'm not connecting enough with the characters, and it gets a little bit difficult, and that makes it not enjoyable for me. I didn't have that problem with this book. Like, it was such vivid imagery in my mind as I read the book. I didn't want to put it down. It was great. This was definitely my standout book of the summer. Another thing I loved about this book was the diversity and inclusion and character development. I just read this book, Murder at the PTA. You can watch that video, but my biggest gripe with that story was the descriptions of the character, was inserting Black characters and a gay character and not fleshing out their characters, like just putting them in for the sake of putting them in and not giving them anything else. And that's something that really pisses me off. I love the way the author describes the different characters but gives them substance. Like, yo, gay people, Black people, POC, like, we are people outside of just those characteristics, you know what I mean? And like, if you're gonna include them in your story, fucking develop them. Like, make them real. Don't just sprinkle them in. Like, it's not fucking parsley that you just sprinkle in like, oh, I've included, you know, you've got diversity. No, that's not enough. I'm not accepting it. So I love the way Blair Fell includes those characters in the story and makes them real, brings them to life, makes them relatable, makes them more than just Black or gay or what. Do you know what I mean? Like, I love that. So yeah, I give this book 4.5 stars. It was such a good read. If you are emotional, if you're empathetic, like, you will go through it, but I feel like if you know that before you go into it, you can be prepared. There are some touchy subjects in here. There are some trigger warnings, SA for sure. Were there any, did I write down the trigger warnings? I gotta be more mindful of that. Definitely looking forward to more from Blair Fell. If you read it, let me know your thoughts. Like, let me know your favorite part of this book, or like your favorite quote or something that stuck out to you. I will see you on the next one. Bye.